For LSU over the weekend, like I said, I can't remember a time that an opponent was in Tiger Stadium that felt so just underwhelmingly overmanned like New Mexico felt for LSU. Well, what about Southern a couple of weeks ago? I get it, but I mean New Mexico, like 28-2 on the first down, like we said, number, and really that came on a busted play. One of those came on a busted play early on, but LSU was able to just they did whatever they wanted to do, right? And from that standpoint, what's the takeaway? A lot like we talked about with Southern, what's the takeaway for LSU? I thought that they really, look, they showed the versatility on defense. How about Harold Perkins started the nickel? Like, what else you want from this guy, man? I mean, I would legitimately would not be surprised if they didn't get the running back situation figured out, if they would toss him a couple of, offensive plays. I mean, he is that dynamic of a player. He steps into a brand new role. This is the fourth game of the season. It's the third position he's played.
Yeah, it shined.
I mean, and been the best player on the field. I mean, they have got a dude in Harold Perkins. You know that. You've seen LSU play for the last month, but it is just fun to watch him playing out there and just being able to shine in different spots and him flying all over the place. No B.J. Ojulari on Saturday night, so you're able to see some new things. You saw Harold Perkins in the nickel, saw Quincy Wiggins playing late in that game on Saturday night.
Converse was awesome.
Jarek Bernard Converse. Versatility. Who knew? I didn't know he could play safety.
I know.
Seven Banks out there looked the part. For sure, it's good to get him some run as you take off to an SEC opponent on the road. You all right over there?
I think I'm getting sick. Feels like I'm getting sick. Burning it at both ends over here. Just trying my best for the team.
Yeah.
For Harold Perkins, all of it.
Yeah.
This happened a week ago too. We got to get you a Z-Pack.
Yeah, or some.
Z-Pack.
What else do I need? Ozempic.
No,
That'll be better.
No, you don't need that.
That will fix me.
It will not.
Men's total health. Look at me. I'm the picture of
You're
not
huge.
health.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get you some
Dying.
testosterone shots.
Yes. Need that too.
Yeah.
I need
Stay
something.
away from that Ozempic.
Might be a
makes him moody.
A GoFlow. Might be a GoFlow day.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll shake me back.
GoFlow for sure.
For
Use
free?
the promo code.
Yeah. Never mind. Fuck.
But LSU 38-0 on Saturday. As we said, some of the new faces. Now, some of the takeaways from the injuries. They got to be good here because first thing you want to do in a game like this, right, is win. Second thing is don't get anybody hurt. And they had a couple of guys leave the game that it felt like Jaden Daniels could have returned. He got kind of slammed down on his tailbone.
He really did.
And he hit his head, too.
Yeah,
he did.
The head hit was concerning.
What
happened with that? Did anything happen with that? Is there a concussion?
He didn't play after that.
No, he didn't.
I know,
play.
but is there a concussion? Have they said anything about it?
No, they're going to cover that one up.
Brian Kelly will speak today at noon, and I'm sure he'll be asked about it. But it felt like, as he said after the game, that if they needed to, Jaden Daniels could have gone back in, right? Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors come out of the game, both of them with a shoulder. Again, feels like if the game was tight, they needed them, they could have gone back in the game. The one that's most concerning is Armani Goodwin. Goodwin was a non-contact early on in the second half. And he came up, and when I first saw it, I thought it was his knee. I really did. I mean, he grabbed his knee. Mm-hmm. He couldn't put pressure on it when he was walking. It looked as if his reaction was kind of shock, upset, pissed. Kind of like the natural form that you see with athletes when something really, really bad happens.
Is it hamstring though?
Brian Kelly said after the game that it was hamstring. So hopefully that is something that can be rehabilitated because I really do think that they're kind of like transitioning into Goodwin as the number one running back on this team.
It really seems
it
like
feels like that's kind of where they want to go. Thought Noah Kane had a really good run on Saturday. For whatever reason, Emory, he doesn't have that pop, man. I don't know if he's not seeing it. 2 years away from football is a long time in that sport. It really is. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk to people that play it, just the physical aspect of it, the speed of it, and just getting back into it takes a minute to catch your feet. And I will give John Emery a grace period because I've seen him play more dominant football than I have seen him play confused football. Right now, he looks as if he's just a little confused on what he's either looking at because he doesn't have that burst. He doesn't have that pop that when he sees the hole, he can get through it and make something happen. So hopefully that will come with more repetition, but it looks as if, or it looked as if, LSU was transitioning to Goodwin as the guy, and I'm good with it. You know what I mean? Like the way he runs, he's got a really nice style to him. I thought Coach Caskey had a really good comp on him. Was DJ McCluster, who spent some time in the league but really shined at Ole Miss, and Caskey spent some time with him. I mean, he's not an overly big guy. He's deceivingly quick. He's maybe stronger than you give him a little bit of credit for it, and he can kind of beat you in a multiple types of ways. We've seen him bust a long run. We've seen him run some people over with a physical style, and we've seen him catch the ball. So he's very dynamic in the sense of he probably gives you the most out of anybody in the room. So I will hate to see or will wait to see what Coach Brian Kelly says about the status of Armani Goodwin, but that to me was the one that was the most concerning in watching Saturday.
Well, it just finally seemed like the light bulb came on for him. Like anything you ask him to do, whether it be pass pro, short yardage, like he kind of became your do-it-all back. Where Noah Kane you're comfortable with in that role, but Armani Goodwin was starting to kind of shine. Like you were excited to see him get the ball. He started getting the run game going more, and you didn't have to rely on Jane Daniels as much because you actually felt comfortable handing it to him. Yeah. And the offensive line looked good. Yeah. Like the way they're run blocking. If you talk about Emery, he still doesn't get it in pass pro. Like he's whiffing on on blocks, so it's hard to get him out there if you can't trust him.
Well, that's always kept him off the field.
Yeah.
Hayden Parrish, John Emery has never had great burst. I would disagree with that.
Watch the Alabama game.
I would go back and watch that Alabama game when he was a sophomore. That Vanderbilt game, really and truly, is where you really saw it on full display. He's just not seeing it. He just doesn't see the hole. He doesn't trust himself in pass protection. It's just, hey, man, 2 years away from football is a long time. Hopefully, Armani Goodwin is healthy enough to get right. Josh Williams seems like he's improving as the weeks go on, too. He's gaining confidence, at least, out there. So it will be interesting to see how they rotate these running backs with, the status of Goodwin, what's going on with Emery, and how Josh Williams is coming along. Will really determine on what this is going to look like going into this gauntlet of what the next 5 weeks is going to be for LSU. So kind of a wait and see, and I know that Brian Kelly will be talking about that today. We'll be in the room and be curious to what he says about what's going on with that LSU running back spot. It was great to see Jack Besh, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like on Saturday night, I think we talked about it going into the game. Besh has this contagious energy about him on the football field, and I thought Saturday night you saw that very early on. The offense made they made it a point to get him the ball, get him involved. He caught a couple of those crossing routes, made some really good catches away from his body, extending, his hands and showing his physical style, and you can see his teammates. I thought last week, when Emory Jones was in here, it was kind of refreshing to hear that, the coaches called out the team in video while they were watching film of not celebrating that play with Emory Jones that he made on special teams. Like when he got up and he was fired up, there was nobody really around him celebrating with him. You could see on Besh on Saturday night when he makes plays and he gets kind of going, it kind of picks up the entire group like we talked about. And then, the punt return, boy, I tell you what, man, Brian Kelly was hot.
That's what I was going to ask, that callback on that 76-yard touchdown. I mean, Brian Kelly did not agree with that call, right?
And if you go back and watch it, I think that this is going to be a great piece of tape for, the officials, the rules committee, people that are evaluating the game to go in and really debate on, because I get the spirit of the rule. Right, I understand that you're trying to take blindside blocking out of football. In fact, they have really kind of exterminated it as far as the rules go. But now they're in the enforcement part of it, which there's still some areas of gray that are open to interpretation, or maybe not open to interpretation, that, you may feel like each side had an argument. I'm not siding with Kelly because, he's LSU's coach. I think that he brings up a good point by that player from New Mexico saw Colby Fields coming. It wasn't by the letter of the law, it wasn't a blindside block. Colby Fields was able to get his head across the defender's body, which, made him see. A blindside block, to me, is ear-holing somebody, right? Like they're running this way, they're not looking, and you just smash them right here, right? Like blindside them, right? In this instance, Besh turns the corner and Fields, sees
he was
the defender
Yeah.
trailing Besh, and all he really does is kind of put his body in between Besh and himself, and the defensive person, which to me, if you're trying to enforce taking out of blindside blocks, that's what that is. And as Kelly that's as hot as I've seen Kelly since he's been the coach of LSU. He was fired up, and really, if you went back and watched the game, he really kind of controlled his emotions at halftime going in when he was asked about it. He was kind of like, let me take a step back, take a deep breath before I answer this because I could get fined. But you could see that it was it's open for interpretation there. I think that it's great debate in the officiating room in looking at this play saying, hey, look, this is something that looks like it was coached up pretty well. He didn't blindside him, but the guy's still got to be able to block him, and keep him away from the guy with the ball. And I thought that's what Colby Fields did. I thought that play was, it was bang, bang, but with the ability to go back and look at it, which I know in the moment you can't, it's a non-reviewable call, but, I'm sure that official went back and looked at that, or there's some type of committee that has gone and looked at that and, said, I'd be interested to see what they would say. And I you know what? I would ask and will ask Kelly, if he's not asked about it, which I'm sure he will be, if he has heard anything back, because I'm sure it's a play that he sent to the league committee and to the officiating committee and said, hey, give me an explanation on this because we feel like we got this right.
I think he made the best point he made was that if you can't do this, then we can't really, what's the point of having punt return? Like, this is a fundamental part of the game to where if you can't make this block, you're really not going to be able to run any punts back. Like, it's going to be moments where you have to pick people off where they're chasing somebody, and Colby Fields did it the way that would be basically teaching tape. Like, that's one-on-one on how to, he got in front of him, didn't lead with his head, didn't do anything that was egregious, or now you can hit people too hard, apparently, in college football and in the NFL. He didn't hit him hard. Mm-hmm. He just got in the way.
Yeah. It wasn't as if, he had an opportunity to clean his clock.
If this is, you rewind it 20 years.
If this was 10 years ago, that would have been leading on SportsCenter.
Yeah, jacked up.
That would have been one of those highlights that you just replay over and over again. But, to me, from the letter of the law, it looked like LSU was in the right. It looked like Brian Kelly had a case. And, just from that sense as well, it made me want to go back and look at it because in the stadium, somebody pointed out to me, like, look at Kelly. He's getting in that official. He's getting on him, man. And I thought to myself, I want to go back and see kind of like what he's arguing. If you go back and watch it, he really has a good point. Like, Colby Fields has the opportunity to blindside that guy. And if you're going to call a blindside block on that, where's the block? All he does is block him with his body. He doesn't make any physical contact.
And I think it's a couple of things, right? Because of the special team, like, woes that LSU has had, because Jack Besh hasn't really been able to get involved, like, that alleviates a lot of those concerns just in the moment. Mm-hmm. All right, well, looks like LSU found their punt returner. Jack Besh gets going, like, the crowd's into it. It's just it checks off a couple of boxes for Brian Kelly, and it all gets taken away because of a ticky-tack call. And now you go back and you watch the game, like, actually special team struggled. There's a couple of things that happen on the special teams front where you're like, all right, this still isn't cleaned up yet. But I do believe Jack Besh is probably going to be back there for the remainder of the year.
Well, should be.
Yeah. Clayton had a good return, too.
To me, yeah, he did. But to me, that's another, like, what are we doing? Like, what are you looking at? You know what I mean? Like, Besh, you're trying to get him involved in the game. His rotation at wide receiver is taking a little
too many
time.
Good ones. I mean,
right. So put him back on punt team and let him catch. He's not going to drop it.
You didn't even miss Keyshawn Booty on Saturday.
Well,
I mean,
and
that
I
should
think,
be
that to
if
me,
that doesn't wake him up, I don't know what is.
Right.
Yeah,
That's got to be the biggest alert than anything.
And Major Burns. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't see it. Obviously out 3 to 6 weeks with the neck injury. He said he's fine, but wants to get him healthy. That's just, anytime it's head or neck, you get concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
and you get Fuchsia back.
The timetable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I believe Kelly said 4 to 6.
Yeah,
on,
3 to 6. I think.
3 to 6 on Major Burns, and Major was
just
really
weird.
trending in a really good direction for LSU and was being someone that LSU could truly count on. Just for some stability back there on the back end of the defense. So you can't get Joe Fuchsia back at a better time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, so Fuchsia he'll be eligible this week to play against Auburn. And from a defensive back standpoint, you really couldn't script it any better of getting him back right now than picking him back up this week. So that by itself is a good sign. But to be without Major Burns, it's perfect timing because you really need to have somebody back there that you can trust. And I thought Greg Brooks again played really good. I mean, he's as good as a tackler as LSU has. I mean, if he gets his hands on you, he's bringing you to the ground, and I think that's what you want out of a safety. And obviously Harold Perkins is that guy on defense that is a for sure tackler. With
Savion
him
Jones.
playing another spot, Savion Jones for sure. He's another guy that's added some real quality depth, and then you put BJ back into the lineup. BJ, people asking about what's going on with BJ. I think he's just had some things early on in the season. If you remember that Florida State game, he had what looked like to be an ankle very early in that game that he played through. He didn't play against Southern. He played against Mississippi State, where he's the SEC Defensive Player of the Year of the week. And then they play against, a New Mexico team that they're 31-point favorites. They're able to watch the film on and see that you can get out there and you can win with Allie Gay and Savion Jones and, the guys that went out there and played extended reps. And you give BJ an opportunity to rest up. Anytime I think he can take the chance and opportunity to get some days off, you got to give it to that type of player.
He's for sure going to play at Auburn, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Jay Ward?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Jay Ward, if you go back and look at that interception at the end of last week at the end of Mississippi State game, it kind of lands awkwardly, where it looks like his foot gets caught like almost on a shoulder pad and it kind of slips out from under him. And the way that he falls, I mean, he doesn't get up and celebrate that end of the game's, interception. He kind of lays on the ground and he's kind of writhing in pain for a little bit, but his teammates are urging him to get up and his adrenaline's pumping and he gets up and he walks off the field. But I know he didn't practice a lot last week. And another one, you take the opportunity. I mean, we're talking about the co-SEC defensive players of the week last week against Mississippi State in Ward and Ojulari. They mean a tremendous amount to what's going to be produced on that side of the ball. So if you have the chance to shelve them for a week and get them some quality rest, in a game where if the Auburn game was this weekend, they'd play. But if you have an opportunity to give them, a Saturday off, because for the next 5 weeks, they got to go. I mean, they got to go against Auburn. They got to go against Tennessee. They got to go against Florida. They got to go against Ole Miss. They got to go against Alabama. They got to go against Arkansas after that. I mean, they really don't have another chance at something like this until UAB. What is that, mid-November. So, I know that there's a bye week on Halloween weekend nestled in there, but, that's the next opponents you kick off this weekend are Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Arkansas.
God, that's crazy. And it's already October this weekend.
You're in the thick of it now.
We are.
But if there's any positives to take away from those guys sitting out, obviously you want to see them get healthy first, but no Major Burns, no Jay Ward, no BJ Ojulari, no Mason Smith, if you want to take it all the way back there, it doesn't feel like that LSU defense missed a beat.
I know.
Like, they are so well coached and know exactly what they're doing. The communication's unbelievable. The tackling's unbelievable. Everybody's always in the spot they're supposed to be. I think they had one busted coverage, maybe they caught one quick down the sideline, but that was it. And so if you're an LSU fan, this defense is humming because, man, it's hard not to be excited. Like, you don't ever feel like there's really a weak link on that side of the ball. And then we haven't even talked about Jaden Daniels. I mean, you saw him do something that you've been wanting to see him do, which is play a clean game. And he was able to kind of, I know he gets nicked up a little bit because we've talked about the running concerns, but he really did try to sit in the pocket and make throws and get the ball to receivers. Dre Dreekins played great. Like, LSU's kind of loaded on the offensive side of the ball. They have so many playmakers, and now the defense looks great.
They're gaining a lot of confidence. They're really kind of starting to come into...
The light bulb's coming on for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their passing efficiency on Saturday night, I mean, 33 of 39, right? I mean, like 633 total yards. I know New Mexico is no good, but all you can do is take care of the opponent that's put in front of you. Right? Against Mississippi State, that's going to be a physical game. You got to fight and claw and get through it, but hopefully at the end you're the last one standing, and they were. And that was a great opening SEC win in a game against New Mexico where you're 31-point favorites, you're clearly the better team. You got to come out and you got to dominate them.
Yeah.
On Saturday, they dominated New Mexico. And the best things that we saw was, again, like, Lloyd talked about a little bit, but Matt House and that defense is just steamrolling with confidence right now, right? With its depth being developed at certain spots like Savion Jones at defensive end, or the versatility of Harold Perkins really starting to bud and grow now, where you're figuring out what you have in him and what's going on with him. I mean, there's just a lot of positive signs. And then when you flip it over to the offensive side of the ball, again, you're really seeing that you've got some true weapons. I mean, you need some help at running back. You need somebody to step up there, and hopefully, Goodwin can be okay, and they can get some production from either Josh Williams or John Emery to help him out. But
or Noah Cain.
Yeah, or Noah Cain. That was a great run that he had on Saturday.
That showcased what you thought you were going to probably get from him when he came from Penn State, or kind of his entire college career. Like, that's what he looked like in high school, where he was just, I'm physically bigger, faster, stronger than you. And so it was good for him to get that, just to get that run, get that confidence up. But I couldn't be more impressed with Josh Williams.
I know.
Like, another guy that always knows assignment football, where he is, and he's starting to get a little wiggle in his game where it doesn't feel like all he has to do is make the right play. It feels like he can kind of put his own spin on it, like be an athlete out there. So
yeah, I've never
I think
really
he looked
looked
great.
at him much before.
Right, he was awesome on
he
Saturday.
really was. It was surprising.
He's paid his dues. He's done his time, man.
You wouldn't know he's a walk-on.
It is time for him to, like, really get the appreciation and the respect that he's due, because he's put a lot of time into the program and, really deserves to see that come to light. And right now, I mean, you can see that they probably trust him the most.
There's so much trust in this team now. Like, they've done like a 180 since the first game, I feel like.
Well, they needed, at some point you're still seeing, I think even like, like programs like Miami, are still like new coaches. There's still a lot of the old stuff that you got to smoke out. And with LSU, there was a lot of carryover of new people, new faces, and trying to figure some things out, and some things in the past that you had to really kind of get through that they were still figuring out. And they're still, they're still in very much a exploration process here of new coaches, but they're figuring it out, at a very rapid rate and putting it together. And when you see these things that they have, some of the tools really kind of starting to piece themselves together, you step away from it and you're like, wow, I mean, there's a lot of bright signs with LSU. Whether it's the future of that, of that offense with the offensive line and the stability they have, the young playmakers like Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors continuing to make play. Brian Thomas, man.
You have to keep him on the field.
Yeah, but who do you sit?
Right.
That's it's a great problem. It's a fantastic problem for Cortez Hankton and Mike Denbrock and Kelly and the crew.
That everyone can make plays.
just that you got players everywhere.
I know, that's what I mean.
It's just you got play, but in certain spots you need more. Like you've got an abundance of wide receivers. You got a lack of tight ends. You know, like you've got some offensive linemen that are young that are really progressing. You're kind of looking for that youngster at running back, right? I mean, there's the defensive line's really growing and adding some depth to it with, you know, I mean, Quincy Wiggins. I know that the future is really kind of what is for him, but he's got to be able to help you immediately in some way. I mean, like there's 5 to 7, 8 snaps a game where you can just throw him out there and say, clog a hole or go be athletic, because he is just mesmerizing in a football uniform. I mean, it is like, look at that kid. I mean, he is a true freshman standing next to Jaquelin Roy, Ali Gay. I mean, guys that are going to be earning big paychecks a year from now in the NFL. And Quincy Wiggins is a true Quincy's going to get there. Not that I doubt that he'll be getting the same type of money that those cats are, but just he's only 18.
It's crazy.
Like he's only a true freshman. And he is just physically
gifted.
His just the way he looks, man, is just it's crazy to think about what could be with him.
What did you think about Garrett Nussmeier's performance?
I thought it was great. 9 of 10. You know, I mean, he's the one that hooked up with Thomas on that long touchdown run. That was good for both of them to get to. But, you know, I just thought that the efficiency of the offense, you know, I mean, we mentioned Daniels 24 of 29. Daniels Nussmeier 9 of 10. I mean, that's.
I know they're bad, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have to look that good.
Right.